We're joined now, of course, one of my favorite guests, Mr. Sam LeCure, again, Bally Sports, Reds pregame, postgame analyst, giving us some time, former Red himself. And Sam, I saw a smile on your face. That's what we need on this show right now, because a lot of Reds fans, not a whole lot of smiles right now. I'm glad to see those pearly whites.
Yeah, man. It's, in years past, everybody's asking, oh, how's the the post-game shows going? It's a lot of losses. And, 2 years ago, I would have said, yeah, they suck. But, because the team sucked. It wasn't going to get any better. But this is a good team. So I still don't have to fake it through a post-game show, because, the tide will turn, because they are a good team. And the way that they're pitching, it's hard to imagine they don't start winning a couple ball games.
So, Sam, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the one thing we opened up today's show with, because I'm trying to combat a lot of negativity. Now, some people say I've been negative today. I just feel like talking about the struggles. If that's negative, that's negative. But the question I have for you, being a former player, it's been a part of quite a few rosters that go through the ups and downs. Is this a good team that's just playing poorly, or is this team just not as good as we anticipated coming into the season? What's your overall perception of this team? Because a lot of people are just in between of what to make of this Reds team right now.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think they're a good team that's not playing well right now. That's kind of the main thing. Now, I expect to have a winning record. I expect them to compete for the playoffs. I do. I still feel that way. But, it's like they went from 62 wins to 82 wins, and now sometimes fans have a tendency to get a little bit greedy, and it's like, oh, they're going to go from 82 wins to 102 wins. That wasn't going to be realistic. And the reason that I kind of withheld a lot of prediction about what this team was going to be was, number one, I wanted to see what the roster looked like coming into the year. I wanted to see the first month play out. After all that played out, I still felt kind of the same way, that there was going to be not necessarily regression, but not quite as much progression as we saw last year, because you're talking about a lot of guys who are new to the big leagues. The sophomore slump is a thing, and they got a lot of sophomores. Not having Matt McClain hurts because he's a really good player. So I kind of expected them to kind of flirt with 500 this year. That said, I can understand why people around town are on the fence about it, because I have been as well, because I believe them to be a good team and I want them to take steps forward. But having been in their shoes, I understand that there's a learning curve, and it's different for everybody. And as a group, they're experiencing kind of a little bit of a downturn right now, but it's going to turn around. I don't know to what degree, but it won't stay like this forever.
The one thing that's interesting, when so many people want to focus on all the negatives, and to be fair, I have, but I think the positive spin on everything is I would much rather have a team like this with the Reds right now, where they're not hitting the ball well, but they have very, very good pitching to fall back on.
Yeah.
I think it's significantly worse when you have a team that's hitting the hell out of the ball. They're knocking the ball to the ballpark, but they don't have pitchers that can get outs. At the end of the day, the positive spin I have is that at the end of the day, the biggest puzzle piece that you need to be a good baseball team at some point, at any point, is the pitching. And the Reds seem to have that at least a month and some change into this.
Yeah, and I think that's going to continue. And that's kind of the funny deal. I guess it was last year, a couple of years ago, when it was going to be the big three. It was going to be Hunter and Lodolo and Ashcraft, and like that hasn't really panned out till now because of injury or ineffectiveness, whatever the case may be. Then, nobody was talking about Andrew Abbott then. He's probably their best pitcher. Nick Lodolo is their best to me. But, you start talking about him, there's a Brandon Williamson somewhere, there's a Connor Phillips somewhere. So the pitching, I think, has taken a step forward. Sorry, I sidetracked myself. It was going to be the big three. And then last year, because of the Ellies and the McClains and those guys, Noelvi Martes, they came up and made this, huge impact. So now all of a sudden this team was going to be led by the offense. That's how fickle this can be. And I think a lot of that has to do with media. What are they leading to? And the fans can get a little bit excitable about what's fresh, what's right in front of them. So it's going to be the pitching. So to that point, I totally agree with you. It's the pitching that leads. And I haven't seen a lot of World Series champions where their team was 25th in ERA. right? So I think that's going to continue to be a strength for them. And those guys, the Lodolos and the Ashcrafts and the Greens are not sophomores anymore. They're juniors and getting to be seniors, right? So they've had time to kind of adjust to the league a little bit and learn some more about themselves, about what it takes to be at the big league level, where a lot of these offensive guys haven't. Now, that's a broad stroke, but I think the pitching will continue to progress because those guys are good. And the offense is going to have to learn how to adjust. And that's where your G-Mark Candelario is important. Your Jake Fraley is important. Guys that have been around and done it a little bit. Tyler Stevenson, Jonathan India. I mean, they're veterans, I guess, on this team now. Sorry if that's coming through. My bad. So they need to lean on those guys to understand how to come out of a slump at the big, because everybody on the team has failed, but they failed at AA and AAA. And while it should be the same, theoretically, it's not the same. When you fail at the big league level, there's a bigger toll that it takes on you mentally.
It's funny. You talked about Tyler Stevenson, Jonathan India. You did the quotation, being a veteran. Well, Elliot and I were just kind of going back and forth about that, kind of questioning what's considered a veteran. How many years do you have to be in the league to be considered a veteran? Because I guess just based on the context of this roster and who they are, technically they're the veterans, right?
Yeah. So that's how I'm measuring it. To be a veteran, I don't know. I think that 4 or 5 years, I think that you're in that range. I think that's the range for me. Because I guess, towards the end of my career, where I was about, 4 or 5 years in, I felt like I had some of that. I felt like I'd been around long enough to be able to have a voice, I guess.
Well, speaking of veterans, there is a guy that is sitting here with me. He's a veteran in the radio business. It's honestly his birthday today. We have Mr. Elliot Reiring. He's going to jump in and join us here.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, man.
Thank you, Sam. Sam, I don't know if you remember me. You probably don't, but I'm gonna tell this story real quick because I have you here. You came on a podcast with me and my friend Zach. I think it was 2 years ago. We called you up. You responded. You were very kind, and you were driving somewhere. I think you were driving through a snowstorm, and you did an entire podcast interview with me while you were driving across the country. So I want to thank you for that. That has stuck with me. My question for you. My question for you, Sam, you've played under a great manager. You've played under a Hall of Fame manager, arguably, in Dusty Baker. I'm going to ask you this because it seems like the fan base, whenever something goes wrong, the first rock you throw, the first stone you throw is right at the manager. And it seems like David Bell is getting kicked and shoved and rolled over right under by the bus. That is this fan base. How much does the manager, how much responsibility falls on the manager? Especially in today's game. I know it's heavily analytic based, but if you're from me from the outside, my personal opinion as somebody who never played professional baseball, I'm probably one grilled cheese away from looking more like a baseball. But I'm going to tell you this, from an outsider's perspective, I don't know how much a manager really means in terms of the X's and O's, opposed to just being a good vibes guy, a good locker room, culture room guy. When you look at David Bell right now, is it fair to start blaming the manager?
No. No, I don't think so. Just because if you're going to blame him, then you, on the other foot, you have to credit him for what happened last year. You got to credit him for progressing in the win column by 20 games. You got to give him the credit, right? Or you giving the players the credit?
Exactly.
So last year, are you giving him the credit, or are you giving the players the credit?
That's I give the players the credit, but that's not That's
not
the
players the credit, but somebody else the blame, and that's because you can't fire. That's because you can't fire all the players.
That's exactly right, and that's my point. You
fire one guy or 26 guys,
and it's just one of those things where I don't think if you bring in Freddie Benavides up to manage this team, you fire David Bell. I don't know how much of these issues get solved, if any of them. So that was my point. Thank you, Sam. I just wanted to.
I think that David, David can be really hard to read. I've known David for a long time, so I got a little bit better feel for who he is and what he's about. I think that I look to the players and how are they reacting to the manager? Like, are they taking on some of his personality? And I think that they are. Like when I hear David talking his post-game interviews and I hear the players talking the post-game interviews, the message is consistent. You know, what David is saying, like they're kind of saying. They're talking about the same things and they're talking about it in the same way. So that to me means that he has their trust. So it falls on them. And that's kind of why I was talking about, the sophomore slumps and, guys still trying to learn at the big league level. It's a tough thing to do, man. I mean, look at Paul Skeens for the Pirates the other day. Gave up 3 runs in 27 and a third innings in the minor leagues, gives up 3 runs in 4 innings in the big leagues. It's different. It is different. Now it's a fine line, but it is a clear line. And I was kind of talking about that a little bit yesterday. You have to be on point so often. And also to the Reds defense, I guess, that plants pretty good teams too. Now they got to figure out ways to beat those teams for sure. And they've been close. I won't try to explain an offensive slump because I was just in a lifelong one. But so I don't know. It seems like it's more mental at this point where they recognize that this part of the schedule is going to be pretty tough. And they all started to try to be the hero instead of doing what they do best. And that's the team concept of how they play, the running the bases, the moving the ball, this. So they just kind of got away from who they are. And once they get back to that, it'll be evident. I mean, the tide will turn.
We got Sam LeCure hanging out with us here. It's the Kinner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio, live on Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. Last thing on David Bell, because again, it's always these narratives that get put out there. And with you being a former player, I really want to ask you this, because I think even me being in media, we fall into the trap of just repeating regurgitated talking points that probably you as athletes just roll your eyes at. When people say, well, David Bell needs to be more of a rah-rah guy, I've always pushed back on that in any sport, because I'm like, you're paid professional athletes. If you need David Bell to be rah-rah for you to be rah-rah, then you're not a very good professional. Am I wrong in saying that? Do you need a manager or a coach in any sport to be rah-rah to get you to be rah-rah? Are you a rah-rah guy without having to be pushed to do so?
I mean, each guy is their own individual, TJ Friedel has a different persona than Matt McClain. Matt McClain is like a white piece of toast. He's kind of boring, like when you watch him do it, right? But TJ's got fire. Jonathan's got fire. Tyler's a little bit more reserved. Will Benson, very eloquent. Spencer Steers kind of, can be I love Spence, but he can be a little bit boring in how he goes about it. It's just, I don't. And where do you need to see David be rah-rah? On the bench? Does he need to be doing it in front of a camera for it to be real? He can't do that in the clubhouse behind closed doors. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So just because you can't see it on TV doesn't mean he's not. If I wasn't airing, if we weren't doing this on YouTube, if it was just my voice, is it real? Like, just because you have to see it, like you can see my mannerisms, so you know that what I'm saying is genuine. I mean, I get part of that, but you can't just have it every way you want it based on the narrative that you want to create. And I think that is a media responsibility. And I think a lot of times the media is fault for pushing these certain things, certain ways that they see them without considering every lens because they haven't looked through them all. I'm fortunate in the fact that now I've spent some time in both arenas. I know what I feel like as a player, what I felt like as a player. And I know, listening to the people that I work with now and the people that I'm around and, talking with you guys or whoever it is, I understand the lens that you guys are looking through and I can give some perspective to that. That's why you asked me to come on, right? Because I have a perspective of what's going on there and how we're looking at it from this side of the thing. But is David a rah-rah guy? No, I don't think he really is. But if you need, to your point, if you need any help from anybody to get up to play in a major league game, because there aren't a lot of those jobs out there. They don't hand them out. If you need help getting up, then you're in the wrong deal.
When you look around,
no, I don't think David's rah-rah. 2, I don't think he needs to be.
Good.
When you look around this team, and I watched it yesterday, and it's just one of those things that bugs me. And again, not a professional athlete, nowhere close to it. But I'm looking at routine plays seemingly being missed. I'm looking at the base paths being almost almost disrespected by how bad the Reds have seemingly run at certain times. You have Elly De La Cruz, Jonathan India's 4 for 4 in stolen bases. There's guys who know how to run stolen base, who know how to manage the base path. But there's a couple instances this season where you're not paying attention to who catches a ball in the outfield. You're on defense wise, you're seeing guys miss pop-ups. What do you attribute the lack of almost fundamental play to? Because in my lifetime, I've been a big Reds fan for 25 years now. I can't remember a team that has struggled this much with the fundamentals.
I'm not seeing that so much. I understand what you're, talking about, running into some outs on the bases. Now there has been some of that where it's been poor decision making when them running into outs, but there's been other times where they've been aggressive plays that the defense has made a play. There's a guy for San Francisco the other day made a couple just perfect throws, and if they're not perfect, they're safe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's forcing the issue, and that's a big part of the identity of this team. So as far as they have done some dumb things on the base paths that have been more out of greed, I think, than within the team concept of, me taking this extra base or stealing this base is going to put us in a better position to win. It hasn't been that. It's been, I want to pump my stolen base number up.
Yeah.
It's been more of those. So those are the dumb things that I like. Getting thrown out, trying to stretch a single into a double when a guy makes a perfect throw, I'm fine with that. And I hope they keep doing it because it's hard to make those perfect plays. The pop-up stuff, I think they, in today's game, and I think they have the ability to be a really good defensive team. I do, because they've got speed and they've got some athleticism.
100%.
You're always going to sacrifice. Well, I'm not, but the game today is going to sacrifice defense for offense. You're going to put your best offensive alignment out there. There's not a platoon defensive strategy. It's platoon to get a certain bat in the lineup versus a certain pitcher, right? They're not putting. And I hate this because there's times where it was when Wade Miley was here. I'm like, you have got to put your best defensive infield, your shortstop and third baseman, that they have to be your best defensive combination that day, because he's going to get a lot of balls moved to that side. So you sacrifice the offense that day to make sure that your pitcher is throwing up zeros. You want those routine plays like you're mentioning, those routine plays to be made. So defensive alignment, I think I don't know. I think it's bullshit personally, but I'll just be honest with you about that. Yeah, they do. They need to tighten. They need to tighten some things up for sure. But it's always going to look like that during a bad time.
I agree with you for the most part. I have one last silly question for you, Sam, because I
like your questions. I think you're funny.
Thank you. There's been one thing that's been clamoring all over Reds Twitter, and I've been trying to defend it. But Sam, I've lost my car. I've lost my house, and I've been trying to bet the Bally Sports parlay with you guys. You're 1-36, Sam. Is that you got to answer this question? Are you the one picking these, or is FanDuel doing it? Because if FanDuel's doing it, that's one thing. And they're a sponsor. We love FanDuel. I bet with FanDuel all the time. But saying that, we got to just throw a couple minus 500s in there. And if it's like a minus 200 3-leg parlay, I'll put $100 on it, and we'll all go home winners. But we just got to get a point on the board here, Sam. What are we doing?
I know. So here's how I'm told this goes. I don't know how to bet. Just because when I was playing, betting on all this stuff like that wasn't allowed. And I don't know if you've heard of a guy's name's Pete. Pete Rose. I'm a little skittish about it. And so I don't know what it comes up and it says minus whatever. I don't know what the hell that means. I don't. So somebody at the that I work with, our producer, somebody like that, I guess they can go onto the FanDuel website and they just kind of hand pick these things and they put it together, right?
Yeah.
So they pick it. So they are creating what you see every day.
Okay.
And then that's just like kind of our sponsored segment or whatever it is. So they put it up there.
Are they aware of how bad they're doing?
They are. So somebody was saying, and this has been recent. It might have been you. They're like, somebody's been honest about the fact that we're 1 for whatever it is.
Yeah.
But they're very, very aware of it. I think we were talking about it yesterday.
If you need any help with it, Sam, I know a guy. I can do it for you.
Okay.
I can do it for you if you need somebody. But we got to shake things up. We can't finish this season 1-161 on the Bally Sports parlay.
It's like, so is it? All right, so that's not on me, because they like come to me and they're like, Sam, what do you think about this parlay?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, over under however many runs, somebody gets a hit, somebody gets an RBI. I'm like, sure, whatever. So I guess I need to start disagreeing with all of them.
Yes, please.
So when it comes to FanDuel, I'll be like, based on our history right now, no, I would not bet on this. You go spend your $12 on a pack of cigarettes or something. Whatever.
It sounds like Elliot, you just volunteered to be Sam's interpreter.
Yeah, I'll be your interpreter. I'll be Sam LeCure's interpreter.
Yeah, you're.
I'll get you some bets going, Sam. I'll help.
All right,
I'll help this fan base win.
All right, I appreciate it. Yeah, right now we need all the help we can get. Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Sam LeCure, awesome enough to hang out with us. Give us some time here today. Kinner and Cap, 1410 ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. Sam, obviously, they're in the midst of a tough stretch. They're trying to rally. They're trying to turn it around. It doesn't get any easier. 3 with the Diamondbacks. You got 7 games with the Dodgers, over the next couple of weeks, over the next week and some change. Just your vibe right now as far as how they could turn this around. Send us out with something positive, why you feel like this team is in a position to potentially turn this around, because just like your betting future, the Reds have to find a way to turn this around here soon.
Yeah, they got to find a way to win a little bit. We've hit on it a couple times, and it's, the pitching. I think that if they continue to go out there, every day, every guy that they send out there, Frankie Montas, Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, Graham Ashcraft, Andrew Abbott, I feel pretty good every day with one of those guys. I feel like you got a good chance to win the ball game. They're going to give you a chance to win it. Now, that might be 5 innings, 2 runs, 6 innings, 3 runs. You're going to be in it, right? They're not getting blown out. I think maybe the Orioles blew them out or something like that. But other than that, they've been tight. They're losing games because of a lack of offense. They're losing games, 4-2 and 3-1, whatever. Like, they're pitching well enough to win. So as long as the pitching can continue to do that, which I think that they can, I think that's sustainable, because we've been waiting for this to happen from Hunter and Nick and Graham. We've been waiting for them to kind of take that next step. It feels like they're taking it. You hate to waste it. So TJ going out yesterday, I haven't heard. I guess I'll find out at work tonight what's up with his thumb. It was great to get him back and see him at the top of the lineup. I felt like that was going to be a big benefit to spark this offense. I don't know where it went, but to be positive, the pitching is why I think that they're going to turn it around, and because they just can't. They're just too good to hit like this. And I think of equal and opposite. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. In baseball, things really do even out. For every missile that you hit that gets caught, there's a blooper that falls in. So if this is a stretch like this, they're going to go what? Right now, they've lost 12 of 14 or something like that.
That's right.
There is going to be a stretch where they win 10 of 12 or 12 of 14. Like, there will be. And I won't say don't put it on a parlay, but I'd almost bet on it.
This is what you have to send us out with, because I don't know how long we've been on this conversation with you, but we haven't even mentioned Ellie De La Cruz. The kid's something special. Look, Spencer Steers looked great. McClain, when he played last year, was fantastic. Obviously, the youth movement has been insane, but there's just something different about this cat, just from your perspective. Again, it's such a generic, dumb question. What makes him special? But from your eyes, he's just different he's your typical superstar player. The Reds have struck gold with him.
Yeah, they have. They really have. And I'll tell you there's 2 things that stick out to me that I don't know that would be obvious to everybody else. Obviously, I don't have to sit here and talk about his physical tools. Anybody who can read StatCast or just watch the game know that he looks different than everybody else on the field, because he's faster and throws it harder and hits it farther and all that crap. He's a really good baseball player. Like, he's instinctually, I watch body movements and, these different things. He's a step ahead of everybody else as far as the game, it's like baseball playing, not physical ability. He's mentally ahead of everybody else at his age. So he's put the physical tools together with that. And everybody will remember this when he did the 3 stolen bases and 2 pitches last year, right? In Milwaukee, stole second, stole third, and stole home in the middle of that toss back. He was like going into third base, takes his little oven mitt off and puts it on the other hand because he's anticipating what hand he's going to slide into the base with. That's part one. Second part is while everybody else is scratching their head, Ellie's over there kind of doing his hair flip and putting his helmet back on, but with his eye on the pitcher, waiting for him to take that ball out of his glove and rub it or scratch his ass or whatever he's doing. And in that moment he goes. So the instincts are there, the anticipation is there, and he's put that together with his physical abilities. And number 2 is learning English. That tells me he understands his capabilities. Like, I'll compare him to Shohei Ohtani. Like when he won the MVP and he was giving his speech and he gave it in English. That is so you can be a global superstar, not an American superstar, not a Japanese, not a Dominican. You're a global ambassador for the game, and it's important for him to be able to communicate with the fans because he expects himself to be a superstar. That's crazy. The self-awareness to be able to do that sticks out to me. So those are 2 things that maybe not everybody would think of, and if they did, maybe not why, but those things stick out to me.
Well, damn,
And he
imagine
can
if
hit pretty good. And he can hit pretty good too.
well, damn, imagine if David Bell just gave him a little rah-rah. Imagine how much better he could
Yeah,
be. I mean,
yeah,
damn,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
like
Yeah, that's all he needs is
Yeah.
just a little bit of hype.
Yep. But Sam LeCure, you the man. We appreciate you giving us some time, and it's obvious that Elliot's going to be keeping an eye on your FanDuel, content moving
appreciate
forward. Yeah. But thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you guys for having me. Take care. Holler anytime.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right. Well, good stuff. That was Sam LeCure. Awesome enough to give us